Hello, everybody. I think I'm the only one here now, but hello, everybody. Just want to see if this works. Can people hear me? Let me see. Just doing a couple adjustments here. Okay, well, I'm hoping everybody can hear me. It is your good buddy Philtastic Phil here. Welcome back to my channel for last week today, episode 9. And as you can see, as promised, we are on StreamYard now. Let's see. Oh, that's probably not going to work. Okay, just trying to work out some last minute bugs live, of course, because that's the way to do it. Try that again. Okay. All right, so nobody's in the room yet, at least that I can see. And one of the reasons I picked StreamYard is because I get to broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter all at the same time. So great. I'm going to give it a minute and we'll get started. Okay. And today is Saturday, May the 7th. This is the day before Mother's Day. And if you're a mother out there or a godmother or even an aunt, happy Mother's Day to you. Well, happy early Mother's Day to you, I should say. Hopefully somebody special has something planned for you tomorrow. I know that my son and I have some stuff planned for my wife. He is, by the way, sleeping right now, so he's not going to make any cameo appearances like he did last week. And I appreciate everybody who stopped and tuned in and said hello to him. And actually, there were a lot of comments after the fact. I'm trying to see how the audio is working here. Hello. There were a lot of comments. Okay, good. We do have audio. So, okay. There's nothing like working kinks out on the air. Isn't that great? When you come in today, whether you're listening now live with me, nobody is, but whether you're listening live with me or after the fact, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment. You know what? I'm just going to dive in and get started. So today, even though I said it is the day before Mother's Day, for comic book fans out there, it is Free Comic Book Day. I personally have some mixed feelings about Free Comic Book Day. If you saw my video earlier this week, you kind of know why. For me, to be honest with you, I don't see it as a positive really for anyone but the publishers. I don't know. It's something that I think it gives undue stress upon shop owners. I have not heard one shop owner who has said, yes, I've been getting more customers because of it. And I mean, to be honest with you, and I know this might sound a little crazy to some people, again, just my opinion, it wouldn't bother me if Free Comic Book Day necessarily went away. The only change I would see is if the distributors were to give the comic shop owners some kind of break, whether they give the books half price or free, so it is truly Free Comic Book Day. But for me, I don't see the positive in it. If you feel differently, leave a comment. Of course, there's positives for the customers. You get free comics, but let me ask you something. As a comic book fan, when was the last time you read something from Free Comic Book Day that really was like, wow, I have to get that? I've read little previews of things that were like, oh, wow, this seems good. Maybe I'll check it out. Believe it or not, some of the DCYM books, the YR books, the young reader books that they tried to push out a couple of years ago come to mind. Like, I think there was one for Catwoman. I can't think of the name of it. There was one for Batman with him in his car. But, of course, I didn't buy it. I tried to go about Free Comic Book Day a little bit differently. And part of it is that, number one, I'm not going to go there live. There's just too many people there. Even before COVID, I kind of felt like it was a little congested. And for that, though, I do thank my comic shop owner, Sean, who's not watching now. He's busy. It's 11:10 right now. He's busy with Free Comic Book Day, but hopefully he'll watch the replay. I do thank him and Justin, his worker there, good guy, for putting those books aside for me. I said, hey, look, if you can grab these books for me, please do so. If not, there's nothing. I'll read them somehow, whether they be online or, whatnot. And I tried to focus on some things. I did ask for some Marvel and DC, but the very top of my list is the book Guardians of Fukushima, which is an independent title. It's not from Marvel or DC, so I'm not going to read it online. But it looks like it's some sort of like a Japanese art kind of mix with stories about the Fukushima power plant. I think that disaster was about 10 years ago or so at this point. So it seemed like an interesting story. I asked him to put that aside for me. Other things that come to mind, I asked him to reserve. I know was Spider-Man Venom team up. You can't go wrong with Spider-Man Venom. Well, you could, but that always looks like a good time. The Avengers, X-Men, Eternals crossover that's coming out. They have the prelude today. They're calling it Judgment Day or Axe, which is a terrible name. Axe. The first thing that comes to mind is the body spray. Personally, I don't know if I'm sold on the series yet, to be honest with you. Reason being, how many verse series have you seen or heard that really kind of led to nothing? Civil War, which we're talking is over 10 years old at this point, is a great story. Does it hold up? I don't know. I haven't tried to reread it, to be honest with you. And if you haven't read it, but you've seen the film, the plot is a little bit differently. What worked for the comics doesn't necessarily work for the movie, and the other way around. Then you had Avengers versus X-Men, which was just okay in my book. I thought it had a good fallout. I liked the kind of rising tension of it. I think it was one of those books that they tried to go a little too big on. I remember reading, and I haven't reread it, but I remember reading years ago some of the tie-ins, and I was like, what does this have to do with the story? I know the Uncanny X-Men tie-in from the main title, at least, in particular, was just very convoluted. I just remember multiple Mr. Sinisters running around. The ending was satisfying, I'll say that, and it did put the X-Men in a different direction. And it was kind of interesting. I thought that tension was kind of resurfaced a little bit, personally at least, recently when they had last year's Hellfire Gala, when Cyclops and Captain America met up for the first time. I think that was actually their first meeting since Avengers versus X-Men, if I'm not mistaken. But, my fear, and I should say this, X-Men versus Inhumans was just very poorly executed, and I didn't care for the conclusion myself. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Though if I told you, I probably wouldn't be spoiling you. I'd probably be helping you out. Somebody joined in. If you'd like, go ahead and leave a comment. We are on StreamYard, so I can see it. Whether you're on, they left. Never mind. Whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm sorry, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Avengers versus X-Men versus Inhumans. I didn't really care for the conclusion. Years later, I did learn that there were some little kind of not Easter eggs, but hints that the artist actually had put into the story. And unfortunately, I'm not going to expand on it now in case you are interested in reading it, because it was very well done in that sense, these little kind of hints, but the story itself, at least for me, fell flat. And to be honest, I was thinking about this morning. I don't really know that we have seen the Inhumans since. I didn't do any research to that point. There was a time that, recently where Marvel was really pushing on Inhumans, and the reason being was that Earl Putterman, who owned Marvel Publishing, I think he still owns it if I'm not mistaken, didn't want to incorporate any of the then Fox properties, namely the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, into the stories because he didn't have the rights to it, for the movie rather. So he figured, let me push the Inhumans over the X-Men, which, whether you agree with the move or not, it did give, I think, the Inhumans, I don't want to say a renaissance, but some really interesting stories. Charles Soule had a great run, I think, on Inhumans, which leading up to Secret Wars is something I read. And to be honest with you, it was done in a really excellent manner. It reminded me a lot of, it was kind of like a Game of Thrones, but toned down significantly first, we'll say that. But, for Marvel characters. And, once Marvel kind of gained the rights to Fantastic Four and X-Men, Inhumans kind of once again took a back seat, in my opinion. And that's a shame because, again, you had some great characters. He introduced a lot of really good characters into that. And they did tie, I think, a couple of them into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series. But, again, we haven't really heard from them since. So my fear, and I understand they've been pushing Eternals hard for about a year since the film came out. My fear is that they're going to do the same, is that after this, Avengers aren't going anywhere, X-Men are going anywhere, Eternals might just kind of fall by the wayside. But with all that being said, let me know whether you tell me live or whether you tell me on a replay, what are you picking up this free comic book day? What are you looking forward to reading? Besides the books I mentioned, I also asked to pick up a copy of Street Fighter Blanca. I don't read the Street Fighter titles, but I'm a longtime Street Fighter fan. My wife and I love playing Street Fighter 2. And I just said, hey, look, if you have it, great. If you don't, again, no skin off my back. Second topic. I should warn you, by the way, I did not read any books this week. I didn't purchase any books this week. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So, again, I'm just going to be doing more of a news-heavy, I guess you could say, stream today. Second topic I'd like to visit. Moon Knight ended this week. I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but tell me, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? I personally thought it was a really well done series. It's my second favorite of the Disney Plus Marvel series. For me, the top is WandaVision. And really, episode 5, I think, was the highlight for me. It really kind of tied things together in that you really see how complex this character can be and how complex he is. If you haven't watched it yet, again, I'm trying to talk around things because I don't want to give out any spoilers. Now, Disney, of course, has not officially announced a season 2. I'd be surprised if you don't see Moon Knight return for another season. I think it would be a waste. And I think the director actually recently gave some sort of a commentary to that end as well. I don't know who's up to. Maybe it's up to Oscar Isaac. Maybe it's up to Kevin Feige. I don't know that. I don't know the reason he would say, "Hey, let's just stop the series." But I think for certain you're going to see Moon Knight again somewhere, whether it's another series or whether it's in an actual Marvel film. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he jumped up in Doctor Strange. I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps up into even not Fantastic Four, into Ant-Man. They kind of left some breadcrumbs, I think, at least for that. But in my opinion, again, I really enjoyed Moon Knight. The 6th episode, and this is where my wife differs. She watched the whole series with me. She enjoyed it immensely up until episode 5. And then she, excuse me, not to put words in her mouth, however, she seems like a little confused by it. And episode 6 does feel very rushed. This is one of the few Marvel shows I feel like could have used one more episode. Although I don't know what they would have dwelled on. Would it be just to kind of stretch out the action? Who knows? But I thoroughly enjoyed the series. I'm interested in seeing, of course, if you liked it or not. Go ahead and leave a comment. Again, whether it's live or whether we read it on the replay. And, of course, I'll respond to you for anything on the replay as well. Speaking of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness opened yesterday. It's making record-breaking money coming in, of course. Reviews, I haven't read any critical reviews, but what I've read this morning is that moviegoers are not liking it. It's actually, they said, the second lowest Marvel-rated movie among actual moviegoers, amongst people. I don't know what the first is. Hey, Trev. First went in. Good morning to you, sir. We're just talking about, I didn't see Doctor Strange yet, but we're talking about some of the early reviews. The moviegoers don't seem like they're liking it. I haven't read any of the critical stuff. And I'm probably not going to watch it for at least a couple months until it comes streaming, with a 2-month-old, almost 3-month-old at this point. We're not going to the movies anytime soon. I'm reserving my judgment for when I see it. Again, I didn't read what the top lowest um, Marvel film is for moviegoers. My guess is that it's either Thor: Dark of the Worlds or Eternals, which, by the way, both of those movies in my book are not the worst Marvel film, um, not by far. And this might be something people get mad about or whatever. The one Marvel film I did not enjoy at all, and I think is a total miss, is Black Widow. I tried to rewatch it again recently, thinking maybe I was just tired or in a bad mood when I saw it the first time, and no. And you get tempered expectations. Okay, yeah, I can understand that. Um, I'm just kind of interested in seeing. I feel like it's going to be a lot more setup than people are anticipating, more than anything else. I'm guessing that the major villain in it is going to be Nightmare, just from the trailers and whatnot. And I think that could be really cool if it's done properly. But as I was saying, I think that Black Widow was a miss in my book because, in my opinion, the Marvel movies, when they're the strongest, are the movies that tend to blend two genres together in a good manner. Even Avengers was kind of a blend of the old kind of serials, just the way the whole setup was going. Um, with and I mean, I'll give you other examples. Guardians of the Galaxy, to be honest with you, even though it was a sci-fi film, of course, there's a lot of sci-fi elements mixed into a superhero story for that. I think there was a little bit of Indiana Jones in that, particularly in the beginning, and it worked really well. Winter Soldier, that second Captain America movie, even a little bit of Civil War reminded me more of like a Tom Clancy film than your typical superhero film. And I think that's why these movies work so well, is that they're focusing not so much on let's make a straight up superhero movie. They're focusing on let's make a good film together by blending genres together. Black Widow, in my mind, failed because I felt like they forgot about the superhero element entirely and focused mainly on, hey, Remy Q, I watched your unboxing, by the way. I don't know if you saw my comment yesterday. That was really cool. That was a very nice surprise. Um, as I was saying, I think Black Widow failed because it was more of an action movie, and it was a lazy action movie, in my opinion, at least. On top of it, um, and really, Taskmaster was not the reason that that film failed. In fact, I think they could have done something really interesting with Taskmaster's origin. And again, I'm not going to ruin it at all, if in case you haven't seen it. Um, all I'll say is that if it was apparent that Black Widow was lying up until a certain point, that would have, I think, totally changed the movie for me. And there was a lot of other things wrong with it too. The whole when Natasha, sorry, meets Yelena, that whole fight. I felt like I was watching the end of it. Was it Rocky 3 when they just kind of ended with the high five? I don't know. But I don't know. Like I said, I think Black Widow's the weakest in my opinion. A lot of people gave flack to Eternals. I really enjoyed it. To me, that was more of a blend of your classic superhero tropes with something more like a Gone with the Wind. And it was something different. I can understand that it didn't work for everybody. It was definitely lacking action. It was definitely lacking, I thought, a strong villain. Um, in fact, I do think that had the villain been a little bit more um, aggressive and not as passive, I think it could have really changed some minds there. The only things in the film that I really didn't care for was when they overtly tried to tie in other Marvel or even DC things, like when a kid comments, "Oh, are you Superman?" I mean, it was just kind of a dumb throwaway line. If you want to look into it and say, well, this was more expansive, Black Widow and Captain Marvel, Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 I appreciate more for what it is, and to be honest with you, for me, I think Shang-Chi kind of redeemed at least a big portion of Iron Man 3 in that. Iron Man 3 doesn't bother me as much, I think, because I liked, maybe I'm the only guy, but I liked the Mandarin twist in it. Just because where can you go from there? Okay, let's totally surprise people. And like I said, I really do think that um, they serve the character. They kind of serve the character in that film better in Shang-Chi. They kind of redeemed him. Captain Marvel, yeah, I'm a little iffy on. I could definitely see that. I am, of course, excited to see her return in the Marvels film, but we've got a ways for that. I was trying to think. What was I just saying? Oh, Eternals. Yeah, in the tie-in, like, oh, what about uh, Commander Rogers or Captain Rogers? Who's going to take over? Again, it was just kind of, it felt like a dumb kind of tie-in. And in fact, I had read an article, and I don't know what the tie-in was going to be, that they were going to attempt to tie Moon Knight into Eternals, but they cut it out at the last minute, and I think that was good. That was a good move. Let me see. I did also want to talk about DC recently put out because put out that they're looking for their own kind of Kevin Feige type of person to really kind of steer the ship. And for a while, I think DC was kind of leaning on Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns, whether you appreciate his writing or not, I guess just wasn't that guy for the MCU, for the DCU rather. I don't know really that they've been kind of leaning on it. People are claiming now that Marvel doesn't have a plan, and I doubt that. I think that Marvel does have a pretty big plan. I think that maybe people are confused because it's definitely not as clear as phase one. I shouldn't say phase one, as the first, let's say, 10 years of the Marvel Universe where you could see clearly that everything was leading to Avengers. As far as DC goes, I think that their movies kind of work better when they're not trying to tie them into one another. But look, in my book, I'll be honest with you. I know some might disagree. I didn't enjoy Batman versus Superman. I didn't enjoy Man of Steel. Though I tried to rewatch it, it worked a little bit better for me the second time around. The ending is really what my issue is. The Justice League, when I first saw it, I thought was trash. Of course, the Snyder Cut I thought was amazing. Yeah, Zack Snyder was that guy. If they were smart, I think they would try to bring him back, but I don't know that he's going to want to work with them again. And to be honest with you, I can understand when these actors and directors are reluctant to get involved with Marvel and with DC because they don't want to be tied to one genre or one type of film for 10 plus years at this point. I really think that they're better off just staying separate. First Wonder Woman I thought was a great film. Second one, utter garbage. To keep it lightly, and again, these are my opinions. If you like that film, then more power to you. I really thought the best acting in that movie was when Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot were trying to sell that movie beforehand, and then a couple months later, they're like, "Well, we think it shouldn't have gone to HBO Max. We think it ruined it." It's like, no, you got paid $10 million to push HBO Max. Yeah, pretty much. Aquaman, I didn't care for either. It was okay. It just didn't go anywhere for me. But look, I enjoyed the Batman, even though it's not part of the DCU. But maybe that's something that they have to consider. Maybe this kind of tied-in experience isn't for DC. The Flash film, I'm interested in seeing if what's his name, what's the kid's name, Ezra Miller, I think. If he could just stop beating people up in Hawaii, then I hopefully we'll be able to see that movie soon. And you know what, though, to his defense, I haven't heard any details other than he beat this person up, beat that person up. What did they do? Maybe it's just Hawaii. Maybe he hates gorgeous weather all the time. But if you've watched any episodes of Dog the Bounty Hunter, I think at this point we're talking it's maybe 10 or 15 years out if you haven't seen it. Hawaii is not necessarily a great place when you get off the resorts. There's a lot of drugs there. And I still want to know, too, what was the song at the karaoke bar that triggered Ezra Miller? I keep thinking maybe it was that song from Better Than Ezra, One Hit Wonder, of course, from the 90s, if you don't know. But I don't know. Do you really think that DC needs that one person to say, hey, look, this is where we need to go with our films? Again, it's been working for Marvel. I'll admit the last couple Marvel films don't seem as not as good, I should say, in my book as the first few, shall we say. Again, I enjoyed Eternals. Not many people did. Black Widow, not for me. I have not seen Spider-Man yet. I think I'm just going to finally break down and get that streaming or something. I was trying to wait and see if maybe Sony and Disney work something out, but look, if I get a coupon from Redbox or something that I can stream it. Might as well just jump on it. Oh, speaking of something, I didn't plan on talking about this. I'm not sure if I mentioned it last week. Again, I was kind of distracted last week by the screaming baby. But yeah, Sony coming out of nowhere with El Morte as a standalone film. And I think a lot of people were like me, scratching their heads. You know, he with a cavalcade of Spider-Man characters like they have. El Morte probably isn't the one that, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, to be honest with you, but probably no Bad Bunny. I don't follow his music. If he's a great actor, you know, I don't really care what he does outside of acting. But yeah, kind of threw me for a loop. And, you know, in my opinion, there are some Spider-Man characters I think that we need to see on film, that the time is right. And I'm going to talk about that in a video this week. See, I'm leaving little breadcrumbs for you. So be on the lookout for that this week. And I'll give you a hint because I think I have talked about this in the past. If you're unfamiliar, last year, I took a couple courses online at the Joe Kubert School for writing. I didn't take any drawing courses from them. I do have some written out drawing courses I have to take from them yet, but that's another subject. One of the actually the first class I took was a writing class taught by Amy Chu. You know, she's done some work for DC Comics. She'll be at a couple shows actually in the area. I'm not one to go to any kind of cons, whether they're big or small at this point in time, but I believe next week there's a small con in Phillipsburg if you're in New Jersey, or that's actually closer to the PA border. And she'll be there also with G. Willow Winslow, the creator or the co-creator, I should say, of Ms. Marvel. If you're in the area, you might want to check that out again. I feel a certain way about going to any con right now, but that's one that got my attention. And anyway, one of the stories I wrote for an Amy's class was a limited series about this particular character. Again, I'm not going to give away who the character is now. I'm going to talk about that this week. And I enjoyed that so much that I brought that to my next class with Joe Kubert, taught by Dan DiDio, former head of DC Comics, and that was a class on how to pitch. And first, I'll say this, I'll admit this. In both classes, I shouldn't have used an existing property. I realize that because I don't have the rights to it. I can't turn around and create that right now. That's just something I have to put into my back pocket and try to pitch to Marvel and DC, which, you know, maybe I should get a lottery ticket first. That's the kind of luck I think I've had trying to get in touch with them, at least. And I can understand that. I'm not a published writer at all. But I'll say this. At the beginning of the class, Dan DiDio said, well, why should I care about this character? He's been around for 20, 30 years at this point. Nobody cares about him. And at the end, when we did our pitches, I had him saying, wow, I really have to read up on this character. So I don't know. I thought that was something. So earlier I said that I didn't go to the store. I didn't buy anything this week. I did buy something 2 weeks ago that I actually just picked up this morning from the post office. So I figured we'll do a little bit of a live unboxing. I'll make sure that I don't show my address. I picked it up at the post office because they refused to drop it off at the house. So, and I don't know why, but I will say this. This is a slab from Shortboxed. And it was something I got a deal on. I thought a good... Packing peanuts. Here. I can't tell you how much I hate packing peanuts. Luckily, these aren't too bad. I'm going to have to clean these up later. He put a box, the shipper put a box within a box. So I don't know that the packing peanuts were necessary at all, but they do have bubble tape at the very bottom. I don't know if you could see that. I mean, look, I appreciate the safety of it all and everything, but I just hate packing peanuts. Yes, you're right, Remy Q. Nobody likes them. I guess they're cheap. Clayamp is a bitch. I will say this, if you've ever ordered anything from Thrive Market, they do use, it's this weird kind of like a cardboard, almost feels like a netting type of material that's much easier to work with. I'd love to see that become the standard for shipping. So inside the second box, They wrapped up the slab nicely in bubble wrap. Okay. And as I said, it took about a week and a half, 2 weeks to get to me. And this is a slab. I got this from Shortboxed for the upcoming Netflix series, Sandman. It's one of the few that haven't been canceled, at least not yet. I don't know if you saw, by the way, Neil Gaiman did have an interesting little statement. Somebody, when they announced that Bone was canceled, somebody tweeted to Neil Gaiman, "Is Sandman still on?" And he's like, he said something to the effect, and I encourage you to look it up because I'm probably not quoting it well, like, Netflix will not promote Sandman. It will come out, but they'll take it down right before you see it, and nobody will ever talk about it again. Like, he gave him a very snarky kind of answer, which was great. Trev, if you'd like, I don't know how close you are to New Jersey, but I will leave you any packing peanuts that you'd like. They are the bane of my existence. But yeah, so this is a slab, again, from Sandman. And I'll give you a whole disclaimer on this. I don't spend a huge amount at all. This was under $20. I made a offer. Yeah, not close, Texas. Oh, well. But this is Sandman number 5 at a 9.6. And does anybody... Oh, I'm mastering the camera here still. Does anybody know the significance of this book? I'll give you guys a couple seconds while I just admire it here. It is an appearance by Scarecrow and Martian Manhunter. I don't know that by heart. It's written at the top. This is the first appearance of, what's his name, the Pumpkinhead guy who had his own DC series when they did the Sandman Universe relaunch. And look, again, it was a cheap slab. I figured maybe we'll get a little traction from it. Maybe he'll pop up in the series. Maybe he won't. But at the end of the day, I didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. It's a good copy. Again, Sandman number 5 and 9.6. Shout out to Dave Bratton if you watch this later on. My Sandman collection is rapidly growing. So that's all I have for you today. Oh, thank you, Remy. Yes, definitely fire. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed my little live stream here. Again, this was my first week on StreamYard. I am endeavoring to go to the comic book store next Friday. We'll see how everything shakes out. So I will have a stack of books to go through with you, to at least tell you what I picked up. And I am going to read some stuff online, at least in the meantime, just so I have a little bit more to talk about, of course, next week as well. In the meantime, if you, whether you're celebrating Mother's Day or not, I hope that you enjoy your weekend and enjoy the rest of your day. I do appreciate you guys coming in, of course, and checking this out, whether live or whether recorded. And I should say, I am very, very close to 100 subscribers on my live channel. I do have my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do so. I do have an idea planned for a 100 subscriber giveaway that's, I think, a little bit different. It's something I haven't really seen done. So once I hit 100, I'm going to give it about a week. And then ideally, maybe I'll announce a winner by the end of the month. We have to see how the numbers go. I seem to be getting a lot of robots who come and go subscriber-wise. But I digress, of course. But with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace, love, and comics. Take care.